Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Unemployable podcast. Today is the actual official first podcast that we've done in 2026, and we're opening it up with a property podcast with the usual suspects. We've got Carson, Shannon, and Kevin. Thanks for joining us, guys. Um, I mean, I had an amazing break, I'll tell you. It's not all the time I take breaks like this, and I usually just, push through and work throughout the holidays and get things done. And this is the first time that I actually took a couple weeks in a long time and just recalibrated, recharged the batteries, and just enjoyed a bit of time with the family, a bit of time, with myself and my own thoughts, which has been good because last year was a crazy year. And how about you guys? Did you guys have a good break?
Yeah, awesome, mate. We always get a forced break over Christmas, which is good.
Yeah.
So all the consultants shut down, council shut down, but I snuck away actually, did a motorbike trip across Indochina and left all the plates spinning in Carson's court. He had to look after it. So
How did it go?
Yeah, good. Managed to get through relatively unscathed, but yeah, like Shannon, it was good to have a forced break as well. Like the last couple of years, you try and fighting it and try and do stuff, and now we're just kind of okay. No one's awake until Australia Day for the most part. Some people come back a bit earlier, but yeah, it's nice to switch the brain off for a couple of weeks and we're on to go. So that's good.
It's been good. How about you guys? Did you have a bit of a break?
Yeah, first day back today, actually.
Hey, you look a bit rusty.
Yeah, I know. It's not going to be easy, is it? Yeah, shouldn't let me. See, that's the problem. If you retire like that for too long, you're suddenly in trouble. You go, what am I thinking? I don't know.
Oh man, yeah, it's the end of 2025 for me was quite interesting. For those of you guys that have been following the journey, I've just finished building a luxury home that we've moved into, and for the 4 weeks prior to Christmas, I actually sat my ass down in a chair on site, helping my builder mate project supervise the project, because I knew if I wasn't there, I wasn't going to get done on time. Not that they couldn't do it. It's just you're just trying to round up all the troops at that time of year, and it's a very, very difficult thing. And I crossed the T's and dotting the I's, and I was like a drill sergeant, probably pissing half of them off, just following up, booking them in, double checking, 2 days out, 1 day out. You coming? Yes, because once one person doesn't show up, then all of a sudden the dominoes just drop off, right? And we got in there. So we've been enjoying ourselves, hanging out. Had a couple people over, some friends for Christmas, and it's been great. And it's just there's a relief of actually I've got not bad sleep now, because I'm not just sitting there thinking about, have I thought of this? Have I thought of that? Oh, this person, oh that, oh just the silicon guy, this guy, electrician. And it's just been like I've actually been able to sleep not too bad, which is good. So for me, that's what we finished off, which is great. Now that everybody's back, we'll just finish off some defect work, as there's always defect work in the building industry. Very, very small, minor things, but they still need to get done. And we've been working on our luxury development in Burleigh Heads. We're building 5 luxury villas there, 4 levels, rooftop pools, and we've just got an email, haven't you read it, this morning, from the interior designer with the finished kind of schedule of finishes. And then we're literally with the builder nailing down a price at the moment, then going to the QS quantity surveyor, and we should be demolishing end of February, early March, which is pretty exciting. It felt like just yesterday that I had Shannon and Carson there. Shannon, the civils guy, giving us some advice on what this is going to cost in regards to getting some of the dirt out and getting more dirt in, and retaining walls and whatnot. And here we are demolishing in the next couple months, which is very exciting. It's funny because in the construction industry, land development industry, it's basically 4 weeks you lose, because people are just coming back today, which means nothing's going to get done this week. And a lot of people take the time off till the 26th, right, which is on a Monday this year, and then come back. So, a good 4 to 5 weeks really out of the year is, just stalled. So that's kind of what we've been up to. So excited, refreshed. Can't wait to get into Burleigh, looking at some other opportunities. But the more I look at what I've been doing, and then I discuss, on a weekly basis with the boys, Carson and Shannon, about business and what they're doing, the more inspired I feel that I want to get into more land development. So this is going to be a year for me that I'm going to be learning a lot more. I'd love to do a project with these guys. I've been putting out a fair few feelers to people that I know that have access to other people that know about land and whatnot, agents. And so hopefully the phone starts ringing and I can start bringing in some opportunities to the team, which is exciting. So Kevin, tell me, end of 2025, off camera, you tell me you got your ass absolutely handed to you. And I'm very excited to actually listen to it, but at the same time, quite upset for you because I know that you've been doing a lot of work in this space. So you're looking a bit, frazzled.
I left 2025 a year of the snake, of which I am a year of the snake. So it's my year of change and heading into the horse year, which is a new beginning. So you expect that sort of thing. What I'd forgotten was something I wrote 10 years ago, which was governments aren't an approval authority. They're there to tell you what you can't do. And secondly, there's only 3 rules of the 527 councils. First, they ignore you, then they fight you, then they tax you. And so here I am in affordable housing, 12 years into rooming houses, solving affordable housing literally one room at a time. And out of the blue, Brisbane City Council decides that they want to now make us illegal to build rooming houses. And then on the top of that, the urban utilities have now decided to rate each one of our rooms as separate dwellings. So that's now put us up to 5 sets of water charges. And then the councils come back and now charge us on a different rateable index to make us rooming houses a higher rating property. Now, there's no logic in that because it's 5 people. So if somebody wants to go out in Hamilton and knock a house down and build 12 bedrooms with 12 bathrooms and 12 kitchens in each bedroom, no problem. That's still 1 set of water tax, 1 set of rates, 1 set of everything. So basically, it's now illegal to solve affordable housing in Queensland. And I said that last year. I didn't know it was going to bite me on the ass. It was just a comment. I didn't know it was going to become a real thing. So literally, we're now at a stage where they found a way to profit from poverty. And so once a government figures out how to make money out of something like affordable housing, that's the end of it. I mean, we had Tom Tate on Unemployable here last year saying, we've got a big problem in the Gold Coast and we need help. And the rooming house is a great idea. And I could do a temporary planning instrument. We worked through all of his council people, all through the front doors, got my ass handed to me on a plate again. They just nailed me for $96,000 on the very first rooming house we're doing just for infrastructure charges. I mean, it's $96,000. Means I've got to put the rent up by about $100 a week on each room just to cover his ass on that. And I get that this is a weird place, Australia, because here we are trying to solve, or here I am trying to really do something in affordable housing, and we haven't created one new city in the last 300 years. The only city we're creating is the Gold Coast. And the Gold Coast is not open for business if you're in a job. It's where you come to retire, but in a way that is really great.
Yeah.
So Tommy's done a great job. Don't get me wrong. I love him to bits. What he's done with the Gold Coast is, wow. Unbelievable. But as a city, it's only available if you've got $5 million.
Yeah, it's either you're wealthy, you're retiring and you have some cash, or you're entrepreneurial or business oriented, because there's not a lot of those big corporate jobs here that are, that they're targeting. That's mainly in obviously Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. That's always been an issue on the Gold Coast. And that's why I've been saying that we need to be incentivizing corporates, right, more to come, whether it's tax breaks, whatever it is, right, to come and set up on the Gold Coast,
Well, first they ignore you, then they fight you, then they tax you. So don't ever think you're going to get a tax break.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to profit from poverty. And until they can figure that out, we are going to remain there. Their biggest problem in the Gold Coast, we gave them a letter on that 6 years ago called The Hidden Homeless. And we said to them, if you don't address this, it is illegal to move people from a park, human rights violations, a whole bunch of stuff. So how do you move people from these tent cities? You don't. Like you're in the Supreme Court. You're going to lose that battle.
Yeah.
So, wow. So much to watch in 2026.
It's happening. We're running a 2-day property development event at the luxury Mondrian Hotel in Burleigh Heads here on the Gold Coast, and we want you there. Because if property development is even on your radar, this will save you years of guessing. Over 2 days, you'll see how deals are actually found, how people fund them without having to be rich, and how projects go from the idea to actually being built. You'll hear from people doing it right now. with special guest Michael Matusik, Australia's leading property analyst and commentator on what the market is actually doing right now. Funding specialist showing you how money actually flows. You'll leave knowing what your next move should be. Check the link below, grab your early bird tickets now, and let's start developing.
So do you vote with your feet and just go over the border, or is there a workaround, or is it just? I suppose infrastructure charges, you can't really work around that, can you? So
No, you vote with your feet and you go where you're loved.
Yeah.
And New South Wales loves it because they've got a small place with 4 million people just in Sydney, and they need that. And they've got big places like Port Macquarie, Coffs Harbour, all these places. Queensland doesn't exist past Gympie.
Yeah.
Like the population's not there. The city of Townsville is going backwards in numbers, not forwards.
That's a real shame too, because Brisbane was your favourite council early last year.
They were my heroes.
Yeah.
Never have heroes. They just let you down.
Don't get too close.
And
to
don't
the
wear a
heroes.
cape, you'll get sucked into the turbine. All those things, you know.
You know, I'm going to let you cool down a little bit because I can see you're getting a little bit feisty right now.
Yep.
Kevin, you just reminded me about the Gold Coast, right? Like Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, they're attracting corporates, they attract events and all these things. And what we're doing at Unemployable Property, and this is the first time we're mentioning this as we're recording, is we have an Unemployable Property live event. It's a property development event here on the Gold Coast, March 7th, March 8th, which is a Saturday and Sunday of this year. So in a couple months at the Mondrian, which is a first 5-star luxury hotel in Burleigh Heads here on the Gold Coast. We've rented out the event center and we've called this event Find It, Fund It, Develop It, because we're trying to overcome the two big myths, which is I can't find a property and I can't fund the property. Number one, finding a property. That's what these guys are doing. And we're going to hear from Carson's young son, who's found their most recent development, which is going to be their most profitable development to date, which was on market. So we're going to be teaching people how to find these deals. We're going to be teaching people how to fund these deals. And we're actually going to have our private financiers there on the day, and they're going to be speaking as well. The room is going to be filled with property developers that are already doing it and people that are wanting to get into property development as well. So it's going to be a very, very good networking experience. It's fully catered, breakfast, lunch, and we also have a networking event on the Saturday night up on the pool deck at the Mondrian for more networking as well. You'll also hear from our special guest that we got coming in, Michael Matusik. Michael Matusik is the lead demographer in the country right now. He's going to be talking about the market direction, what is happening, population growth, and what the actual market is doing and why the market keeps on going. Nobody understands it, and he's going to unpack that for us as well. There's going to be so much value. I honestly can't wait. We've been prepping for this for a long time. Very, very excited. First time mentioning it. If you guys are interested to learn more, click on the link in the description on this podcast or go to www.unemployable.com.au/March event. Property development has changed my life. I know it's definitely changed these two guys' lives beside me, Shannon and Carson, what they're doing 5 years ago, cleaning carpets, excavating, to what they're doing now off camera over the break. Shannon told me a little bit about what they have in the pipeline, and it's unbelievable. So hope to see you guys there. March 7th, 8th, Mondrian, Gold Coast, Burleigh Heads, Unemployable Property event. Hope to see you guys there. Thanks for reminding me, Kevin. That's good.
My pleasure.
Carson.
And by the way, Michael Matusik, fantastic.
Yeah.
For the audience, they should just look up Matusik Missives. It's free.
Yeah.
And he just does that all the time.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I've been to multiple events where he speaks at, and I honestly, it's a kind of a pinch me moment knowing that he's now speaking at one of our events that we're putting on, which is pretty cool.
He's actually a personal mate of mine for the last 25 years.
Well, we should have got a better discount then, hey?
He actually said that he gave you mates rates.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good on you. Look forward to it. So, Carson, tell me a little bit about what you guys were up to in 2025.
I'll let Shan touch on the construction side of things on Stockley, but we've got a few that we're chasing down at the moment. So we've got a Mudgebar site we bought in October 24. So that's been a long DA. We've been backwards and forwards with council, and then the sign just went up on Monday. So all the pitchforks and bits and pieces will be coming out over the next 6 weeks. We'll navigate that, and I'm fascinated to see what council say and what, if obviously with the neighbours, if you can tweak things to, appease them, 90% of them are typically, I don't like development, and, council don't, unless it's a real valid reason, they doesn't really get looked at. But so that, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So that public notification, because it's a impact DA, early days, we just did the code stuff because we didn't want to, upset the neighbours, and we typically still just target areas that council are wanting things in. So, but it's got a bit of flooding. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. So excited to go through that. We, I think I mentioned on the last one, picked up a site in Burleigh that will be lodging a DA. So it's an acreage subdivision on the Gold Coast. That way we had the ecologists out there, set up all the cameras to check all the fauna, and that'll help determine the footprint of, how much vegetation we can clear. We've got, buffers from the creeks that we have to work around. So, we're in the design phase of that at the moment. We've got a long DD, so we'll actually, typically we just go to council, have a pre-lodgement meeting, get the feedback. This time we're actually lodging the DA during the due diligence period, which is not what you typically do because it's a six-figure plus exercise to do that. But to get the answers that we need, we physically have to do that. So that's going to be an interesting one. So, but we'll both build our houses there, which will be awesome. So we're the project will kind of build them houses with the profit, and then we'll work it out the back end. And then tomorrow we've got a site in the Scenic Rim. We've got a pre-lodgement meeting with the Bow Desert City Council, an off-market one that's come from an agent that I've been talking to for about 3 years. We just keep staying in touch. He sends me stuff every now and again. So we've basically got things agreed to verbally with the vendors, but they don't want any due diligence. So we've got a handshake agreement, which could go south, but we figured we'll just roll the dice, have the pre-lodgement with council, and then hopefully we can get what we need. It's probably be 10 1-acre lots out there, which is where Kevin's been selling. So fingers crossed that all goes well. And look, we've wrapped out the back end of Stockley. We had our first settlement on Friday. So we've got another 18, 19 lots to settle to pay out the debt, which should be nice. And then we're rolling stage 2 is 21 lots. So we're going through, we did a minor change to the existing approval, which council have approved. We've lodged our operational works, which is the detailed design. And then you've got the referral agencies, which is fisheries, the state government. And then because koalas are now endangered, we've had to refer the site to the federal guys as well. And then we've got, so typically we did a site a few years back where exactly the same side of the road, for every tree that we cleared, we had to plant 2, and that was fine. So for the exact same site, we have to, for every hectare that we clear, we have to pay an offset company roughly $30,000-$40,000 a hectare. So for every one that you clear, you've got to plant 5 to 6 hectares, and that's roughly what it costs. So we've worked out it's going to be in the $1.5-2 million range, or we can actually buy a farm in the kind of out to Toowoomba region, up to Gympie, that backs onto koala habitat, actually rehab it ourselves. It's 25 years you've got to maintain this. It's a big commitment, but we could literally buy the farm and rehab it for the same kind of money. So we're in the process of potentially doing that. And then we've got a site that we can try and get something a bit bigger than what we actually need. So then we've got offsets that we can use into the future. So that's something that we're playing with. Instead of just cutting a check to one of these offset companies, you've got brokers in the middle that are clipping the ticket. You don't actually know how much you're paying. So we've been talking to our ecologists, talking to our rehab team, because we just planted 73,000 trees for a creek. So we've got the team to actually, get rid of the lantana and, all the exotic weeds that are in the area. And then you don't always have to plant a lot of trees. A lot of it's natural regeneration as well. So that's something that we're trying to wrap our head around. We're still trying to work out what's the best way to go, but that's an interesting kind of add-on where we actually see if we get a big enough offset site, there's something that we can offer to other developers as well, where we're like, okay, we've offset 20% of the site, we've got 80%, you go on a register, and then other developers can actually contact us. Especially a lot of people don't want to have to manage it, and it's not as scary as what you think. You've got a rehab team that go in and do it, and you've got an ecologist. It costs you 12, 15 grand a year for them to maintain it and check on it and make sure the wild dogs and the this, that, and the other. So we're just looking at seeing how that works. But yeah, look, the construction, Shane had a few challenges, with the wet weather, and it was a massive undertaking. I don't know, it was 60,000 cube that we imported for 21 lots. That's roughly 2,000 truck and dogs. It's a huge civil construction undertaking for a small amount of lots, really. So I'll let Shan kind of run through, how that all went. He spent most of his life out there last year.
Yeah.
So
He definitely did. We'll get into the construction, but I noticed you walked in today and there was 5 extra gray hairs on your chin and you were limping a bit. And then I realized why. And it's Carson's 41st birthday today. So he's not a young buck anymore.
That's it.
And we've got a little bit something special for him, actually.
We've been working on this very hard.
Oh, here we go.
We haven't settled on our
Those
project
guys-
yet.
For those of you guys listening, right, we've got a cupcake here and we're going to sing Carson happy birthday. Now, it's only a cupcake because, like Shannon said, they didn't settle in Jambumba in time. So instead of a full-blown cake, there's one cupcake only. And we're going to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Carson. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. Yay.
Oh, I'm feeling old, I tell you. Back's clapped out, and it's good.
I was actually going to get a bigger cake, but they didn't have 41 candles, so I just...
It was a fire risk. It's a fire risk.
We'll save this for you.
That's awesome. Thanks, boys. Much appreciated.
All right, now back to business. Construction.
Yeah, no, so Stockley, it was, like you said, where I lived most of last year. We certainly had some challenges out there. It was wet weather. Wet weather certainly took its toll on us. I think we ended up with about 70 actual wet days. So EOT's extension of time through that period. Although we're working for ourselves, all that's still important, and you need to keep track of it all the way through for your claims and whatnot, because we're still dealing with the bank's money at the end of the day. So we've still got a 12-month runway. We've still got a program we've got to stick to, and we still need to build it in that time, plus our contingencies. So, yeah, like I said, 70 wet days. That didn't include the time after that it was still wet and water running offside and pumping and drying areas out we could work into. And it certainly took its toll on the project. Cost us a fair bit more than what we thought. The project still stacks up. It's still very profitable, but yeah, it was very frustrating, to be honest. And that led us right to the end of the year. We had a few changes on the way towards the end. Again, electrical guys, we always say it. Make sure your electrical and your engineering are always talking to each other, because we've done so many of these projects now. And again, in our drawings, we actually missed the PMT from having its own easement. So we got
What's the PMT?
pad mount transformer.
Yeah.
So we had a big transformer that we had to put in, and it cut into one of the blocks, and that wasn't on the design.
So I
in
sold the block to someone, and we didn't cut out that 25 square meters, and I had to go back to them and say, oops, sorry, you've got this pad mount on your block now, or it's cut out around your block, and your block's smaller than you thought. What do you want to do? It's not the space you want to get yourself into.
Yeah, and not only that, that was probably the lesser of the two risks. Was the owner, if they didn't like it, wanted to sell, we actually offered them to change block as well, and they decided to stay there. But it's the council approval process. We had to go back through again, add this in, do a minor change. Yeah, it was more time. And
Money.
like you say, Kev, time kills developers.
Yeah.
So that was a big one.
Actually, compounding interest kills developers, which is time.
Yeah. So that was a big one. The wet weather flogged us. And then we had a good run into Christmas. It was all boots on the ground, and we were running all Saturdays, everything. We were flying at the end. Earthworks got done. Our landscaping went in really well. They went off without hitch, thankfully. So, yeah, we put a lot of trees in there. They're all surviving really well. I was very fearful they were going to get taken out by a gully raker, i.e. a lot of rain, and clean the creek out, and we'd be replanting it. And that didn't happen over Christmas, thankfully. Everything's established, and we're up and running, which is nice. And, electrical went in. A couple little things with electrical. We had issues towards the end. It had a local earth, that particular PMT. Normally they're a shared earthing grid. So they reach out and they share an earth with all the other transformers in the area. This one had to be self-earthed on site, had a really large easement, and that actually got missed on the day. So when they come to do the switching and give us electrical on the day, Energex picked it up, and the contractor hadn't done it. So we actually got pushed back by that again. We lost a couple of weeks having to add that earth back in and waiting for our switching date again to come out on site and light up the subdivision, basically. So we got through that, and we just got everything together, our documentation, survey, ASCONs, everything finished in time, sort of mid-November, that we could lodge for plan sealing. And thankfully we just made that time frame, because council was, I think, 11th of December from memory, that we had to have everything in and done. Otherwise it just gets kicked back out and started in the next year. So we achieved that. Everything got finished. We achieved plan sealing, got titles by 23rd of December from memory. We were trying to settle the blocks, trying to settle a project before Christmas, which we didn't make it, unfortunately. Another cost, compounding interest. So
And a 4 or 5 weeks delay in the holidays.
Yeah. So back end of January, that'll probably, we're at our peak debt levels at the moment. So that'll be about $80,000 roughly, because we didn't get to settle before Christmas. We're settling the end of January now, with everyone taking their blocks. And yeah, we're just waiting on that. So that's where we're about. That's where we're at on that project.
So we might have to switch the event from the Mondrian to the Novotel by the looks of it. You didn't tell me this before I...
No, we're good now. It's coming out the other end.
Yeah, good on you.
And probably the other one, it was a really good break, actually. Took a motorbike trip, like I said, over to Indochina. I've come back, caught up with heaps of friends and family over the break. It was a good reset. But probably one of the key points I want to talk on is I caught up with a friend of mine about retirement. And we're just having a yak about it. And he doesn't know entirely, or probably to the depths of what we actually do. We just yak about families and surfing and whatnot usually. And he shared a bit of his pipe dream. So he wanted to retire at 55, or at least try and dial back and just work 2 or 3 days a week at that point. And I asked him a really simple question. I was like, mate, what's your plan? How are you going to do that? That's awesome. And he just sort of shrugged his shoulders. He goes, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it yet, but we're paying down our house. And I was like, oh, wow. And like, it really sort of brought me back to what we do in here while we share all of our ideas as well. So I said to him, we'll sit down and have a coffee at some point and just work through that. And because he's got a lot of equity in his house, that he can spear that off. And I actually steered him in your direction, Kev, to talk about potentially some of your properties, because it's a good investment. And especially for a first investor to come in and do a rooming house, something they can hold and maintain for a long period of time. Like, it's really suitable. He's not the kind of person to take the risk as a developer. But yeah, I just hope the listeners are actually making moves. Like, if we're touching on our 40s, well, I am. Some of us are over now.
Easy.
But I just hope people are actually making some moves to what their retirement looks like, and starting to get a plan in place. That's all.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research on the whole retirement piece, and it's interesting because a lot of us don't think about retirement in their 20s and 30s, right? And then all of a sudden you're 40, and what you can't get is that time back, and that's a huge cost, right? That you're not going to get back. And we need to start realizing that housings went years ago from basically shelter to a leveraged asset class. That's what we're in now, right? Like, property is a leveraged asset class. It is shelter, but it's so much more than that now. So you look 30, 40 years ago as an example, and most people were on one income to buy a house, right? Either the man or woman would go work. 34 years ago was mainly the man, right? I'm not saying one's better than the other. And one of the parents would stay home and raise the kids, right? Mortgage was, roughly, 3 times income, give or take. And you're paying your property off, say, 10 to 15 years. Fast forward to today, mortgages are now more like, 6 to 8 times income. It's taken 25, 30, 35 years. Trump is talking about 50-year amortized mortgages. When there's talk, when there's smoke, there's fire. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in all the Western world. And now it requires 2 incomes, as an example, right? And people are living longer. So when you start looking at 30, 40 years ago, people were retiring at 60. I remember growing up 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old and listening to these commercials called Freedom 55. And Freedom 55 was this whole scheme of retiring at 55 years old. I don't know many people that are retiring at 55 years old today. And, average, they were living, give or take 70, 75. Fast forward to today, people are retiring much later, late 60s, right? But they're living into their 80s. They're living into their 90s. Like funny story. We moved into our new place, right? This is when you've moved into a good street. When your neighbor across the road is 90 years old and he's been there for 43 years and his wife's 75 and they invite you over for early afternoon Christmas Eve drinks to meet some of the other neighbors. So Jen and I said, you know what? And my father-in-law who's here said, we'll go and we'll take the kids. Average age was 80. I've been here 32 years. I'm 82. I'm 85. I'm 80, right? But they're all living still. They're all like, they need to fund their lifestyle still. They're still drinking beers. They're still, they got the prawns, they got the seafood out. There's still this affordability piece, right? But at the same time, you've got policy changes, and the goalposts are being changed, right? So you've got pension age that are increasing, right? So who knows today when you can get your superannuation? Is it 65?
Yeah,
65, right?
Ridiculous,
Like,
yeah.
do we think in 20 years it will be 65?
No.
Do we think it's going to come down or up? You know what I mean? Like, you're probably going to be 70, 75 before you can access that. And the issue with superannuation, and one of the reasons why I've never believed it in myself, is just it's just holding capital there, right? Meanwhile, you've got property that, these properties that are compounding so fast for multiple reasons, right? And we talk about this all the time on podcasts, and we got everyone in the comments. It's immigration, it's this, it's labor, it's whatever you believe, right? The data is the data. And in my opinion, these are why we're doing things like unemployable property and creating these events, because I'm telling you right now, Shannon and Carson are not worried about retirement. Okay. Kevin, who's on the pod, is a young 72-year-old, one of the youngest 72-year-olds I know. Why? Because he's active. He's not worried about retirement because he's still working. He doesn't need to work, right? He's made that much money. He doesn't need to work.
But he enjoys his
But he enjoys his work. And this is why we're so passionate about what we're doing, because in my humble opinion, your job or your business, right? Most businesses aren't going to take you to the level that you need to in retirement. You need to be doing other things. You need to be looking at different asset classes, right? I'm not worried about retirement either because we've done the work, right? In our 20s, in our 30s, in our 40s. And let me tell you, if you're in your 50s and you're in your 60s, you're going to have to be doing something, right? And this is why we're doing stuff like the Unemployable Property event in March, right? To help people. And there's people from all ages there, from people in their 20s to people in their 60s, all different types of people wanting to do different things. Why? Because they don't want to be the person that's retiring at 75, that lives to 90, and they're living off the government.
So can I give you two quick stories on that?
Please do.
Roger and Robin, clients of ours, he wants to retire. He retired at 58, which was last year. His problem was he believed that his process was, if I buy houses all through my next 30 years, pay them off quickly, I can then sell one house at a time to keep my funding going. That was his plan. We switched him and said, no, you build a rooming house here and that's 110 grand a year income. We'll build your house with your apartment on top and 4 underneath, giving you another 88,000 a year from his PPR. He's now earning $188,000 a year. He lectures on cruise ships where he's off 40 times a year on how to navigate by the stars because people are interested in different things. And so he's got an incredibly active retirement. But the most important thing is his PPR is pulling in 88K and one other house is pulling 100. You know, you can probably get by as a pension on 188 grand a year. And so it's about thinking differently about your home. Your earlier comment about the word job. Job stands for just over broke. And too many Australians turn up for their job just over broke. And if they get a little pay rise, then it just means they might get a better seat on a plane or a better car or maybe a longer holiday. Instead of this, they do that. But it's always just over broke. And the commonality between the four of us here is we are unemployable. We are literally, nobody would hire us because we would tell them where to go and what to do, and they are not paying us to tell them where to go and what to do. So fundamentally, the gift you can give them in March is how to stop them being just over broke and start thinking about it. You know, a 12-year-old can find a subdivision.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I had a similar conversation to my niece. She just got a really high score. She's going to go on to be a doctor. She's studying for a doctor next year, and she's like, "What do you suggest I do if I make all this money in 4 years?" She's pretty switched on for 17-year-old kid. And so we pulled out the compound interest calculator. I said, well, here's your options. You know, you can start investing now, and if the best thing you've got is time. And just saying if you start with X amount and contribute, this is what you're going to look at. And she was like blown away by how much that actually compounds at. Or I said, you got your share market, which you can't really leverage, and then you've got property development. We're talking to our property just straight investment. For me, I think for the boomers, they've done extremely well. I think affordability is going to cap out at some point. We got, like you said, it was just the one income. Now it's the two incomes. It's going to hit a level at some point. So if you're going to do it, like I said, the agent just sold us the most recent property. He's been on the side just buying rooming houses, and he's like, I didn't focus on capital growth. I focused on cash flow so I could build a portfolio. And you're going to get decent capital growth anyhow. He goes, those are still doubled in price, but all of a sudden they wash their face and put a few dollars in my pocket, and I can keep building my portfolio. I can't do that if I just buy $1 million property and it rents for $800,000-$900,000 a week. You're negatively gearing. So nobody buys a business to lose money, but for some reason in property we just think that the money we take out of our pocket, we just hope that it goes up by more, and that we're going to be in a better. I just don't think that's the game. So we ran through that, and then for me, I found myself at 36, on 50 grand a year. So even if you're later in life, what we've been able to do in 5 years just by compounding property development and rolling the funds into it, and not taking. I've seen a couple of developers recently that have had a couple of wins, and they go buy that nice house and they got the Lambo, and we've just reinvested everything. And this next project, all of a sudden, we'll go from renting to owning our house unencumbered. It just skipped the whole the mortgage piece. So I'd rather that delayed gratification, but it's hard. You got to have that discipline. You got to sit down with. I'm lucky I've got a wife where I say, look, trust me, we're playing the long game, but we're going to skip having the mortgage piece.
Yeah.
And you've worn her thin now, mate.
Oh, poor darling, she's jumping around all over the shop. But it'll be worth. She gets to design a dream home now, and then at the end of 2027, look, list of the board. Like, if we don't want to, we don't have to work ever again, and that's in 5 or 6 years. It's pretty quickly crazy how things can turn around just by compounding.
And that's the thing. Like earlier, I mentioned that Shannon called me and we discussed a few things, and he's like, I want to share something with you, right? And it was you guys' wins that you guys are having, and he told me some figures, right? And I just sat down after the phone call and I was thinking to myself, I'm like I thought I was doing well, right? I think I'm making good decisions. And then Shannon drops this bomb on me going, hey, check this out. And it makes me realize and look in the mirror that like what I've been doing for the last, say 20 years, right? These guys have been able to do that in a quarter of the amount of time. And it makes me look going, am I doing the wrong thing? Or maybe should I be looking at learning a little bit more about what these guys are doing? Because you are who you surround yourself with, right? And that's the thing. So this is where you start expanding your mind and asking yourself these types of questions, right? But the reality is there's a very uncomfortable truth that we all need to realize what's happening, right? Early retirement used to be the default outcome of a normal life 30, 40 years ago. Now it's a reward for extraordinary outcomes. And we have to believe this, because this is what's happening. This is the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to talk about. And it's not because people are lazy. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of lazy people out there, right? That aren't going to be doing anything anyways. So they're not worried about this. They're not probably listening to these types of podcasts and taking in this content, right? But it's because capital beats labor. Systems reward ownership. This is the way it is designed. We had a demographer come on that this is all he does. He looks at data every single day and he says it is designed this way. And time and leverage, right, matter more than effort. And this is the thing, you can't get those 10, 20, 30 years back. That's why when we discuss coaching and these young people that don't have money, but they're rich in minutes, right? They might not have the cash, but let me tell you, there's going to be someone there that's rich in cash, that wants a partner that's, with someone that's rich in minutes, that wants to execute and wants to educate themselves. But the reality is people can't retire anymore because wages fund life. But assets buy freedom, and assets are now priced beyond wages. Listen to that over and over and over again. The writing is on the wall. Whatever you need to do it, you need to start buying assets, in my opinion, whether it's with yourself, whether it's fractionalized ownership, whether that's with friends, just buy something.
We said to a client, they had a real problem housing people. We said to them, okay, you're really into this homelessness and helping people. The government's going to give you $275 a week to help this, and you're going to help them teach a new job. So we moved 8 caravans onto a flood zone site because legally they're registered so we can tow them out when the flood comes. They're getting $300 a week for an $18,000 caravan. That's 100% return. The client's getting affordable housing, but those people have got the best quality life you can imagine. They love each other to bits. They're celebrating new learnings. 3 of my clients have retired pensioners. They didn't make it. And keep in mind that 80% of boomers didn't make it. They've got 20% of the money and 20% have got 80% of the money. That's what happened in the whole boomer race from 19 whatever to 1962-ish, that time. Only 20% made it. It'll be worse for the next generation. It'll be more like 1090. But the point I'm making is 3 of them have decided to, at the age of 60, get a career and get a professorship or a BA or whatever you want to call it at 60. They've racked up $180,000 in HEX debt. And they said to me at 65, I'm not too concerned about my HEX debt because I will never earn the money to pay that back. Literally, that's how it's rigged. You could now take every pension and stick them into a HEX debt legally. And they can all go to uni and do a 5-year course and come out and not do anything with it, but just amuse themselves. They're turning up at unis. It's like unbelievable, the things that are happening out there. Another thing was we decided to move into, say, concrete as a solution for housing. So I read all these books, 8 of them in the last 4 weeks on the subject of construction. And it occurred to me that in that data, and this is really interesting, we have mined, mowed, dug up the earth more in 2021 than we did since the dawn of time to 1950, which translates to the fact that every human on this planet, 8 billion or whatever it is, has 80 tons of concrete per person now in this planet. And we are digging out more shit from this planet than ever before just so we can be green. That's unbelievable. That's why the satellite dish keeps pointing skyward, because there's no intelligence here. You will not see any of those looking for intelligent life pointing this way. We are dumb as dog shit, really. Nothing to see here.
Keep doing the same thing over and over.
Oh, unbelievable. And the data is the data. And I just look at it and go, wow, in 1 year, we dug up the earth more than the whole of humanity did from the beginning to 1950.
God, we're getting efficient.
Oh, I tell you what, watch the mining stocks for the next few years. These guys, Rio Tinto, they are making, the word I'm looking for is shit ton of money. It is unbelievable, the amount of mining that we're doing at the moment.
I mean, and this all goes back to, in my opinion, I said this over and over again, more property will be held in less hands. I was talking off camera to Shannon about this, right? Like Shannon and Carson are going to be owning not 1, 2 properties. They're going to be owning multiple of properties moving forward, right? Because they're going to be keeping them. They're going to be building them. They're going to keep. They're going to build. They're going to keep. And this is something that Carson was talking off camera. So let's touch base a little bit and change gears and talk about what Trump has just come up with, saying that he wants to ban corporates owning property. So what did you see, and what do you believe?
Well, that's right. Yeah. So last week he came out and said, want to ban corporates. I think BlackRock was singled out. They've been buying a lot of. It's mainly, I think it's single family homes, which I don't really have a problem with if they're bringing new properties to the market, but it's not, they're buying existing stock, which is not great in my opinion. And they're saying, oh well, it's putting it in the rental pool, so it's good. But as soon as we get to a part where the average mum dad can't buy the average house, we've got an issue. I just don't. I think that's a step in the right direction. And I mean, I've said on the pod before, we've already sold half our bloody farmland around, overseas, which does matter from someone that's grew up in the sticks. I mean, everyone still wants to sell to the highest bidder. So it's got to come from the top because, I was actually talking to my old man during the week, and he's saying, my uncle, a lot of the problem with all this offsets, it sounds good from the environmental standpoint, but he goes, one of the things that the farmers are saying pushing up the prices is the actual mining companies that are buying the farms to do their offsets. So that's pushing the price up once again as well. So I just think there needs to be some better thought from the top. But yeah, I just think, I think it'd be great if we implemented that here. We've already, like I said, sold off a lot of our wharfs and bits and pieces. As soon as the big boys come in and buy single family homes, I don't know what you guys' thoughts are, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big Trump supporter. I'll say that with a caveat. He's the most egotistical person on the internet at the moment, that he's got to have that big set of balls to do what he does. And I love what he's doing. We need someone like that here, in my eyes, because exactly that. It'll just monopolise the market. And the plan there is to push inflation of property and housing. If a big globo or big corporate comes in and starts to buy bulk housing, they then manipulate that market. They own that market, just like mining. BHP, Rio, they're all big companies that own these areas, and they control the price. So exactly like he said, people live in houses, not live in corporations. So I think it's one of the best moves he could do over there.
You look at some data, right? I got a Reuters report here saying that as of June 2022, institutional investors owned around 450,000 homes in the U.S. There were some other figures we were talking off camera, but they weren't correct. About 450,000 homes. That's a lot of homes that are now off the market, that are going to be, put for people to rent, that are going to have no chance at all to ever buy that property again. But my big thing is that, and this is a question for you, Kevin, with your experience, do you think that is putting pressure on prices? Obviously, America and Australia, very two different countries. But what we're really, really good here in Australia is monopolizing things, right? We don't like competition, right? You look at the Woolies, and you look at the Bunnings, and then there's so many other companies. You look at the breweries, the alcohol in the country.
Yeah,
right?
Coles, Woolies,
Yeah.
Ajax, Telstra, Vodafone.
Yeah, right. And we're really good at monopolizing things. So all it takes is one swift, BlackRock and these types of big companies starting to really come in and penetrate Australian property, and it's already on its knees in regards to affordability and supply. What are your thoughts on what Trump's doing there? And do you think that should be done here? Do you think it is a problem here yet that we don't know about?
I think a country like Australia has a problem. It doesn't understand its history, so it's got no idea where it's going in terms of creating its utopian future. It just reacts. I mean, we've got a leader who's more concerned about AI putting him in a bikini than we are about anything else at the moment. I mean, we're watching that more than the housing issue. It's the first time in history where governments will be taken out by things such as housing policies. 40 years ago to this day, they tried to introduce the Australia card. It's now been rebadged, the digital ID. There's all these things that are happening. And I'm watching Trump very closely as to how he feels about everything from vaccination to digital ID to housing to saying BlackRock can't do this. I mean, BlackRock is one of the largest shareholders of the most profitable bank in the world. Is it because they're part owner? I watched the fact that Qantas had to put things on their tail to say it was a yes vote for people because BlackRock owns that, and that was the thing at the time. We are literally being controlled as to what is being told us by these people who've got the ownership. Australia is for sale. That's the problem. The highest bidder gets to buy it.
Well, I mean, I read an article last week that it's either sold or they're in negotiations. I think BlackRock has come into, I think it was BlackRock, Hamilton Island.
Yeah, it is.
Now, Hamilton
no,
Island is
no,
privately
no,
owned.
I think that was Blackstone.
Blackstone.
Yeah,
So Hamilton Island.
they are related.
Yes, right. Stone Rock, I guess.
Yeah.
Cousins maybe.
Rock and hard place. Rock and hard place.
But like you look at Hamilton Island. Now that's a privately owned island, obviously
Totally.
owned by the Oatley family. They could sell it to whoever they want, right? And who's going to buy that island within Australia? Really, right?
1.2 billion.
So
not
what
one.
happens is, these Blackstones and BlackRocks and these types of companies come in and buy it, and then people go, that shouldn't be sold. But we got to realize there's two different things here, right? There's government-owned land and assets, and there's privately owned. Like, are you, as the Oatley family, going to go, you know what, I'm not going to sell it to you, Blackstone, for 1.2 billion because you're a corporate. I'm going to sell it for 600 million to the guy that can afford it. That's Australian. That's not the way business works either.
Who's most likely going to sell it for the 1.2 straight after.
Correct.
This,
Right?
this,
So there's an ethics piece there, but at the same time, people aren't getting into business just to do business and be stressed and, get gray hair and the rest of it just because they're there to make money. And this is what people need to start realizing. Like rents is an example. Like, are we sitting there as landlords going, I hope rents come down? Have you ever thought to yourself, I hope rents come down? I hope my block of land price comes down, right? And this is the battle that we have with the people, the people that are in the market and the people that aren't in the market. And I see it in the comments. We did a recent pod with Simon Kuchenmeyer, a really, really good podcast that's getting an amazing amount of views and commentary. And that's the comments, right? Oh yeah, coming from the person that owns 25 properties and so many people that don't own one. That shouldn't be the way. But this is why I go back to, shouldn't be the way, or is it in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you didn't invest wisely in assets, you invest wisely in labor and superannuation, and now you've been priced out of the market. And I'm not going to have time this week to talk about it, but I've got another, topic I want to talk about on our next pod about the affordability between wages and property and some actual stats rather than going, wages aren't going up as quick as property, and that's the problem. Well, that's let's dig into that, because we won't dig into that today, but we will. But what I will say is we all know that you cannot work to save enough to get into the property market.
No.
Yeah, but Australians are weird. I know I am one. Years ago, when Donald Trump got in first time, he reached out to Australia and said, look, we've got a housing problem in America. So he reached out to our superannuation people who gave him billions of our dollars to solve affordable housing in America. And we just gave him all the money, billions of your money. If we did that to our own Australian people at the time, 2019, here, those companies, those superannuation companies would have made a lot of money on behalf of their people. But because Trumpy says, I'll give you this much in return, and it's a guarantee, they just get to tick that box, get their bonuses and move on.
And that's why you're getting your, 6% return, 5, 6, I don't even know. I don't believe in super. So, 5, 6, 7% return, maybe whatever you're getting in super. But imagine if that was flipped on the other side, what kind of returns you would have got with the
Super won't get into property here. They won't, the real money is here in Australia, and we're happy to send it overseas to solve affordable housing over there. $5 billion, big number, and you go, see ya. Thanks very much, tick. But we don't believe in our own country.
Yeah. Whichever way you look at it, the system is stacked against you. You need to get interested in shares, business, property, crypto, whatever it is.
System rewards ownership, not labor. That's what we need to remember.
Yeah.
Right? How do you transfer that labor into ownership? That is the key, right? But what's happening is it's getting out of reach for a lot of people, so they give up rather than going, hey, Kev, is it out of reach for you? Yeah. Hey, Shannon, is it out of reach for you? Yeah, me too. Hey, Carson, you too? All right. Why don't we have a sit down and talk about what can we do together to make this happen?
We can solve the problem.
Fractional ownership, in my opinion, in all asset types will be the future.
Yep.
Right. And the people that have been acquiring assets over time won't need to worry. Like Shannon and Carson aren't worrying about retirement. And these guys are going to be at the rate they're going, I'm scared, right? To see what they're going to be worth, right? Because they're actually doing the work and they're learning it. And that's the thing. You read 8 books in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I haven't read 8 books in fucking 3 years.
Yeah, but
But what I'm saying is, I'm not a big reader, right? I like reading, but I just, for whatever reason, I start reading a book and then I don't know if it's ADD or whatever, and then I read 10 pages and I go, what have I just read? And then I go back through it, and right. So some people take in information differently, but this is what I'm saying. Have I listened to podcasts? Yes. Right. Am I educating myself? Yes. But educate yourself in a way that you're comfortable with. Like 8 books, you could have been doing a lot of other things, right? For all looking on wherever you wanted to. But this is the thing: you're educating yourself. Why? You've just got kicked in the nuts.
yes.
Holy shit! My business just fucking went from here to here, and I got to start doing some research on what the hell I'm going to be doing moving forward in the future.
I have a duty of care to be smarter than them.
Correct.
That's all.
But that is the difference. That is the key. That is why you're now looking at these different areas in New South Wales, right? And not going in Queensland. You're not just going, oh, that's it. Oh, shit, I'm screwed. Now you're going, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to actually educate myself now and go, you know what? I just got to pack up and go here. But how am I going to do that now when we're having a coffee earlier? Actually, you know what I'm going to do?
I've just renovated a 1981 Viscount caravan, brought it up to 2025 standards, and I'm going to tow it in my car to those locations and just do it on the road. Because that way I'm mixing with the locals. I've got a home to go home to, which is right on the beach, because the best places in the world are on the caravan parks, as far as I'm concerned, in Australia.
They are.
I mean, I just spent 3 days testing my 1981 caravan a few weeks ago in Byron Bay on Clark's Beach, which would cost me in water goes $2,000 a night. It's costing me $100 a night. And I've gone, shit, I can actually get out of my caravan, have a drink, and not worry about driving.
But you know what the issue is? And this is for the young people that I'm talking to now, is the Instagram photo is not as good in the Viscount as it is on the $2,000 a night at Watergoes, as an example, at Ray's. And that is one of the issues. You got to decide where you want to put your energy and where you want to put your resource. And I know personally so many people that I know that don't have the money, that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And all of us, but then they're having these discussions of, oh, I want to do this and I'm going to buy my first one. And in the back of everyone just zipping their mouths, just watching it from a distance. And these are the difficult decisions that you need to make, right? Like, what do you rather? The $100 a night in the Viscount? You probably rather the $100 a night in the Viscount than the $2,000 Watergoes.
Well, I've done both.
But the thing is, you don't give a shit because you've done it already.
Got it. That's the thing.
That's the key. You've done it already, right? So that's out of your system.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is all these, in my opinion, the younger generation want it to be done now. They want to be seen in it now, right? Because of this social media. And I think what's happening is I feel bad for the people that are in their 20s and the people that are in their 30s that are not investing in assets. Because let me tell you, spend all you want now, but come to your 50s and 60s, man, you ain't going to be staying in any of those places if you don't start buying assets.
Well, the government's definitely not going to save us back then. I mean, in 20 years' time. So, yeah, it's going to be...
just find out what people want, go out and get it and give it to them. That's how you make money. Pretty simple.
And the funny thing is property development as well. If someone came to me and said, hey, you've got a piece of paper here, sign it, the property market's not going to go up for 10 years, but the acquisition side's not going to go up for 10 years, I'd sign that dotted line as a developer. I know a lot of investors won't like that, but I'd be happy for a flat market because I can develop. We only need to make 20% margins, 30% margins, same as typical businesses go on development. But the market going up, it's not good for the average middle class. Like I said, pretty much every investor would disagree with me there because they're relying on the capital growth. But I just don't see how the average house being $1.5-2 million is good for the average partner.
Your comments from the research you're doing is that it will double potentially by 2035.
Yeah, that's another thing we're not going to have time to talk about today, but there is an article that we will dig into that they are saying there's areas in Australia, right, we're in 2026, by 2030 that will double. Just think about that, right? In the next 1,400 days or whatever it is, 365 times 4, right? Give or take 1,500 days, a property that's $1 million right? The modeling is showing, not just some random person that's going, hey, it's going to double, modeling, right? They're using analytics. I'm sure they're using AI and these types of things to model this out. And it's frightening, right? Like, that's why I'm like, it's frightening for me, for the people that aren't in assets. That's what it's frightening for. For me, it frightens me, because that's why I'm like, I get like, should I sell this property? I'm like, oh, no, because what if that happens? You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to make decisions when you're actually looking at assets allocation. I have a friend of mine that said, he's created this spreadsheet, amazing spreadsheet, and he sends it, and he goes, he had all these asset allocations. He goes, hey, if you had $20 million liquid, right, and you were going to not be in this country, what assets would you invest in dollar wise, right? And it's, from Bitcoin to shares to businesses to gold to silver to property, all these things, right? And it's hard for me to invest in a lot of other things when everything is aiming, all the data, everything's telling you that properties, what this modeling is going to go up double. Now, I'm not needing it to go up by double. Even if it goes up by 50%, even if they got it half wrong, they're 50% wrong, even if they're 60% wrong, and the property is going to go up 40% in 4 years, man, on a leveraged asset that you're getting income on, very, very hard for me, right, to be selling, because it's like,
You're making it sound harder when it's not. What I'm trying to say is, if boomers clearly, after the time from that 1946 to 62, only 20% made it. Now, sure, in your generation, me saying your generation now, but a generation below my age of 72, yeah, you've got some things stacked against you. But they forget that a boomer, when they bought their first home, was an 85 square metre home for 5 people, share a bathroom, man first, everyone else had to wait, sheets on the window, and tables were made from bloody tea chests, and that they would hire furniture before they pay for it, hire purchase, a whole bunch of shit. And they paid off that house over time. Now, the problem is that developers insist that the only thing you're allowed to build is a 200 square metre home, minimum covenant, and that's all you can do. So screw you. You've got to go straight into the top home, not the. And so we're taught aspirational day one. And sure, 10% of you will now make it, 90% won't. So it's changed, 10%.
But you just look at the data, right? And we're going to finish it off. But I just want to paint a little picture here and go, people got to start thinking of sole ownership, just like people had to start thinking of one income. Now it's 2 incomes. Soon it'll be 3, 4 incomes. And think of it this way. If they get it right, and property prices in certain areas double in the next 4 years. And right now, the average price of a house, say in Brisbane, is $1 million, give or take. And you can't service that. But you have 3 other people that are in the exact same position, right? And you buy that property with 4 people. And this isn't financial advice. This is just a scenario. That means you're servicing a $250,000 loan now, not $1 million loan. If they get it half right, if they get that right and it doubles to $2 million, even in 5 years, call it, right? We'll go 4 years. Let's be more conservative from what they're saying, 5 years. That means your 250, that you're not putting in 250, you're leveraging the 250, turns into 500.
Yeah.
So you've just doubled your money. I was talking to a friend not long ago, right? When I say not long ago, an hour and a half ago, that said he's been working 20 years and he has $200,000, right, in his superannuation. 20 years of work. 250,000 in 5 years, if they get it right. If they get it half right, it's 125.
Just to put that
Like this is the way you got to start thinking, right? Of playing around with numbers, not instead of just going, hey, I'm not doing because I can't afford it. If you can't afford it, most likely the friends you're hanging out with probably can't afford it either. So let's congregate, let's think, let's collaborate, because we are in, right, a society, in my opinion, of collaboration.
Mm.
This is what we're doing at Unemployable Property. We're collaborating, right? We don't have one person on a podcast. We've got 4, right? You bring in 25% of the effort. You bring in 25% of the effort. I bring 25% of the effort, and Carson does as well. And then all of a sudden, we've got a show. And it's the same thing. So what people need to start thinking of.
Yeah, but, you know, briefly at the end of the show, you're selling block land in Jimboomba at the moment for 650 grand, somewhere around there.
850 now.
850.
Yeah.
Next week, there's potentially a house coming on the market, 2 houses. Brothers lived there for 40 years, 40 acres in Jimboomba, 1.5 million. Now, if the kids got together on that, 4 people got onto that, it's already got 2 titles, 40 acres guaranteed to go to 4, 1.5 million in between 4 of them is then only $500,000 each. They've got a home. They can split those houses in half and create 2 little flathettes. They've got a home that's costing next to nothing. Fantastic capital growth. 40 acres in Jimboomba, no brainer. And they just sit there for up to 4 months to get on the market because no one can imagine what you could do.
Yep.
Just stop doing what we're doing and start thinking differently.
Well, this is the other thing. When we started, you know, when you guys started Unemployable, this was more of a business side of thing, you know, idea, capital, execution. It's the same with property. So the idea side of things, if you get really, really good, you don't have a dime to your name, you don't know anyone else that can afford a property. If you've just got a little bit of go about you to get around, you know, whether it's our event or other property events, go get yourself educated, understand, like anything you can learn it. Like I was a carpenter that didn't know anything about any of this stuff. And you learn the skill of finding properties. I didn't know the capital piece. You know, I was pretty blue collar. I didn't know my circle of friends. I didn't know anyone with dollars. But once again, get you out of your comfort zone, surround yourself. I started meeting people, and we found a lady that funded the first 6 projects. We didn't put a dime of our own money. We just found it and said, okay, we will manage this for you. And that's how we got our leg into the property development. We didn't have a cent. Like when I had to put down the deposit, I'd say, yeah, I'll do a $1,000 up front and I'll give you the balance deposit in 2 months' time. And I only just had the $1,000 to put down as initial deposit. Oh yeah, I've got the rest of it. I'll give it to you in a couple of months. And I was like running off, you know, talking to a joint ventures party. So if you don't have a dime and you don't know those people, get good at finding the deals and you know, the rest. The money is out there. There's plenty of people. I just didn't know them. If you put yourself in the right rooms, there's plenty of people that would love to not just be getting the 5-6% sitting in the bank and get, you know, a lot of our deals, joint venture players have made 40 to 100% return on their capital in that 12-18 month period. Yes, it's a bit of risk, but a lot of people are happy to take a little bit of risk to try and, you know, fast forward the retirement plans.
And that's the thing, right? Like under the caps, like for those of you guys that aren't watching, we have Unemployable caps and on our desks, and Carson just raised it. And on the bottom of the cap says idea, capital, execution. Now, I'm going to end the podcast for those of you guys that didn't hear me talk about it earlier in the pod with the Unemployable Property event that we're doing March 7th, March 8th, Saturday, Sunday at the Mondrian Luxury Hotel here in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast. Right? Find it, fund it, develop it. Idea, capital, execution. Idea is the find it, right? The fund it is the capital, and the develop it is the execution. Now, the people that will be in that room, sometimes they're all 3. Most of them aren't. There's going to be people in there that are finding deals that need the capital. There's going to be executors in there. One of our coaching clients, right, is starting with us very, very shortly, and with these guys from the community, right? Executor, as an example. These guys have idea. They've got the capital. This is the collaboration piece. These are the people that will be in the room that day. You're going to be, you know, the right questions are going to be asked. The thinking behind real actual projects, right? And the conversations that you don't get online, right? That you will get in person. You'll be meeting developers that are doing deals. You'll be meeting the people that are actually funding these deals, not just private financiers that sit in an office, but JV partners that you'll be hearing from that are actually funding projects like Shannon and Carson's, right? You're going to be listening to Carson's son, who actually found a deal. I think he needs to get a better upfront commission, but that's just my opinion. But these are the people that you're going to be listening to on this day, March 7th, March 8th, Unemployable Property Development Event. Find it, fund it, develop it. Be there, click on the link in the description or go to www.unemployable.com.au/March event. We're all going to be there. It's literally across the beach. It's an unbelievable place. And there's also a networking event on the Saturday night up on the pool deck. Hope to see you guys there. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Gentlemen, thank you so much. As always,
Yeah, mate.
let's crack off 2026. Let's make it count.
Great to be back.
All right. We'll see you guys there. And Kevin is going to be the MC. Yes.
For your sins.
See you guys.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.